Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, and thank you for tuning back into St. Andrew TV, a cure for your Monday blues. I'm your host, Andrew, and today we are making some more frontier recipes. This one comes to us kind of from the mountain men and kind of from the Oregon Trail, but as we all know, the Oregon Trail lines were set up by the fur trappers of the American frontier. Regardless, it does still produce some pretty interesting food. And on today's episode with Cooking with the Saint, we are making Johnny cakes, and if you follow me along, I'm going to show you how to make them. This is a very baseline recipe, as you can see by the very seldom ingredients that I have next to me. Like I said in the introduction, this stemmed from very early colonial life in the United States, and it obviously goes into what we now know as the early American frontier with the fur trappers and the expansion west into the Civil War and post-Civil War, which led to the Wild West that we all know and love. And Johnny cakes, or journey cakes, or hoe cakes, were one of those foods. The one that I'd like to point out is journey cakes. It is a very minimalistic recipe, which was meant to fill your belly with very few ingredients. And that's what we have here. All it's going to require is cornmeal, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, and some butter. And this recipe, actually, you can remove the butter entirely. And the stuff that's going to give us our dough is just going to be water, because you're most likely not going to traverse the frontier, whether that be the long hunters or the mountain men or on the Oregon Trail. You're probably not going to take a whole slew of milk, because that has a tendency to go bad. But once we get our dough, we are going to cook it on the stovetop. Probably not historically accurate, but we are going to cook it in animal fat, which is something that you had an abundance of on the frontier. So we start our recipe with 1 cup of cornmeal, and we're putting it in our coveted St. Andrew mixing bowl. 1 cup of cornmeal, fine cornmeal, I might add. The next ingredients, and if you're a longtime viewer of St. Andrew TV, you know we like to consolidate our sugar and our salt. So we have 3 teaspoons of sugar and a half teaspoon of salt. Make sure you get all of it out of there. You don't want to leave anything behind. We're not a food waste kind of family over here. Next thing that we have before we add the wet ingredients is we have 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And remember, this is the frontier days, so this is going in not melted. We just have butter on standby, and we're throwing it in there. And hopefully the water, once we get to that part, will break it down a little bit, and then we can make our dough. The final ingredient before we get to mixing this all up is 2.5 cups of boiled water out of my very nice Arizona Diamondbacks cup. You know, baseball is a very old sport. There's almost a video idea somewhere in there. I do go to a lot of baseball games. I rather enjoy baseball, so you'd think with one of the United States' oldest sports, there's something to, talk about. Means the sport was being played during the American Civil War. So I actually misread the directions. You're supposed to add the dry ingredients to boiling water instead of adding the boiled water to the dry ingredients. So I'm actually going to go put this over the stove top and get some of this water to evaporate out of the potential dough that we have. So just a little hiccup, but nothing has been ruined yet. So good thing that I figured out how to read in the last 15 minutes. Otherwise, we could have had a pretty big mess here. So let me go do that, and we will resume with pulling this out and getting it ready for the animal fat covered skillet. So as my burners are heating up and we're now correcting our little mistake there of adding dry ingredients to the water that's over the fire or stove or whatever have you, you are going to stir this until that you get a shaggier dough. It gets a little bit more thick. You want that water to evaporate, and that's when you are going to pull it, let it sit for 15 minutes, and then you can either take little chunks and put it in a pan next to the fire that's either coated with animal fat or bacon grease, or you can just throw the whole damn thing in there and make one big Johnny cake. But as I'm letting the water come out of the soon-to-be dough, I'm just letting you know, since I don't have it right in front of me, what is going on behind the scenes. And then I will show you what the dough looks like before I hit it with the animal fat greased skillet. I would say that looks a little better, a little thicker. I just took it off the heat. But the important part is now, because I did read the directions this time, is we are going to let it sit for 15 minutes. You just let it get down to room temperature. Let all that water get out of there, where you have a dough now. It's still a little moist and you want it to be, malleable enough but to work with, but you also want it to stay together and not crumble. You don't want it too dry. You don't want this to be the final place of what you're cooking, because you still have to throw this in a cast iron near a fire to have your Johnny cake. That is more like it. This is why I say it pays to read. It pays to be a little bit more educated, because I made a little mistake. Luckily enough for us, it was a mistake that we could correct rather easily. So to correct my mistake, have your boiling water near your campfire or your stove, what have you, and add the dry ingredients to it and just keep stirring. Instead of what I did by adding boiling water to the ingredients. This is what it should look like before you put it in your cast iron. And now, if you're going to do it like I'm doing it, make sure that when you throw this big hunk of dough into your cast iron that's got animal fat rendered down in it, you are going to fry this. Make sure that everything is nice and flat. You want everything to cook evenly. And that's how you're going to get your most desirable hulking Johnny cake. But this is what you're looking for. The dough is still moist where you can move it around, but it's not so dry that it's crumbling, and this is what I meant by a little bit shaggier. So we are moving into the kitchen. We are going to fry this up, and I will come back with one big Johnny cake, and hopefully it looks like it's got some burn to it. I like the little burn marks, and it can give you the illusion that I cooked this next to a campfire. Original plan was to get this all in one big Johnny cake, but it was having trouble staying in one piece, so I made 3 Johnny cakes. And I noticed about halfway through everything that I think it's very similar to the corn dodgers and anything like corn based. I noticed a pattern with these old-timey recipes is they're very repetitive. So I'm not even entirely sure if this is a unique video or if this is just a rehash, but regardless, this is my lunch. And I'm going to give you a taste test, and then I'm going to put some syrup on it to see how, these very early Johnny cakes hold up with a little bit of sweetness. Yeah. You want to get in on this? There is syrup on this one, and I know what you're thinking. You didn't even give a taste review of what the first one tastes like. Yeah, because it didn't make it that long. So I'm trying it with syrup now. I would have to say that you don't even need the syrup. If you put the little dash of sugar in there, the 3 teaspoons I think it was, standalone, I would say this is the best dish we've had. I think if you really want to maximize it, exchange the water in the recipe for milk And you could, this is a legitimate like 21st century recipe. Like you could feed your family with this and they would love it. Now this could be the Midwest in me talking, but the corn sets it over the top. Everything's corn. And this could be the American in me, but it's deep fried in fat. It's deep fried in like oily fat. So I don't know, it's not the healthiest thing you'll put in your body, but it's certainly one of the most tasty things that you'll put. You know, and I'm going to shout out my favorite content creator here in a second. See if anybody gets the reference. It's a self-report if you do. Yeah! Yeah! If you get that reference, please leave in the comment section below. Anyway, that wraps up today's video of how to make Johnny cakes, journey cakes, or hoe cakes. But your mom didn't make them, I did.
I don't know if you should leave that there, but it's too good not to.
I'm gonna let you know that that's not in the script that I wrote for all this. That was just right off the top of my head. That's not to offend anybody. That's funny. It's kind of like the old joke. They used to just call it down until your mom went. You know, so if they're called hoe cakes, you know, if the shoe fits. Or I guess this is a Western channel, if the boot fits. Anyway, thank you everyone for getting this far into the video. This was the Johnny Cakes video. It's fantastic. Probably rank 1 or T1 for best things we've made. Please leave a like if you've enjoyed today's video, or leave me a comment stating what you liked, or tell me what recipe I should do next. I have a Patreon. This is probably a really tough sales pitch now after the mom joke. Anyway, if you want to continue to support the content on the channel, here is the Patreon link at the bottom of the screen, or I'll link it down in the description field below. But after your mom jokes, I don't know if I'm going to get any suitors, unlike your mom. Oh man, we have gone off the rails. If you would like to continue to support, please feel free to leave a donation, but feel no obligation to. Only if your means allow you to do it. The content will never be influenced by external forces. It is from the brain of yours truly, or from the collective brains of my audience members, so I do appreciate it. But just remember, always come here if you just want to have a fun time with some really poor timed your mom jokes. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed as of late, but for those of you who've come across this video or this channel, maybe because you like the old frontier, maybe you just wanted to learn a recipe from said old frontier, or maybe you saw the beginning of the video and wondered where my hat went, and where that hat went because it was unfamiliar to you. Well, we're going to talk about that next week, but I guess the only way you'll see that is if you think about hitting that subscribe button, because you're a daisy if you do.